Hey, Brian.
Catherine, how you doing?
Good. Good to see you again.
I like that shirt.
Thank you.
It's sharp.
That's the Norcordia logo.
Is that Norcordia? So
Yeah, it's a
what brand of like shirt is it?
Unicorn Exceptional.
Really?
Yeah, you can buy it on their website. They did a Catherine Haddad branded collection with the Norcordia logo.
It looked like a jacket when you first were on there, and I liked it because I
Yeah,
like that big collar.
yeah. The
I've
collar
just
that's
been,
really, especially for those of us that are aging, the high collar is very nice.
yeah, I need that. I need that. I've been going big on Kingsland. I've just ordered a
Hmm.
bunch of Kingsland stuff. But anyways, let's dive into it. I want to hear more about Norcordia. So wait, let's stop for a second. So we'll record this now and then we'll post it later. So if something goes wrong, no problem. We can start and stop. We can edit out all the times I say. So does that sound good? Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, I'm ready to get started.
Okay. So awesome, Catherine. Thank you for coming on. And I really wanted to talk to you about Norcordia. I was interested in the sport horse investment portfolios and always interested in having a discussion about how to make money with horses, because I think it's important to have a financial and economic interest with these animals. If you really care about them, I think that's important. So tell me more about Norcordia and how this works.
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast, Brian. And first, let me say I feel really at home on your podcast simply because of the way it's titled, because I did take my business to the next level. And it's creating Norcordia and the sport horse investment portfolios is a dream that I had for a very long time. I put it on a back burner until I was really very well accomplished in my professional career, and I could turn my attention away from competition and toward really growing a business that would be for investment and to create value. And the biggest observation I made throughout my years in the business is that there were, especially in the United States, but also in Europe, there's a lot of people who are involved in horses because they're passionate about the sport. They love the sport. They spend a lot of money in it, particularly the amateurs in this country. I mean, they really devote a lot of money to pursuing their hobby. And I've had partnerships with these kinds of people throughout my whole life. Sometimes the partnerships have gone really well, and they've made some money on a horse, or some other kind of business arrangement. And sometimes they've gone badly because, as we know, the risk in the horse industry is very, very high. So you can have a great horse, but when it takes a wrong step, you're literally one bad step away from losing everything, career-ending injury, something like this. I've tried syndicates, partnerships, and I've been outright sponsored by people in the past to pursue my sport career. But what I wanted to do was to create an investment tool that normal people like you and me could use to make money in the horse industry. And when you realize, or you begin to realize, that the horse industry globally is a $300 billion industry. So when you take that apart in your head, you're like, okay, well, somebody's making money somewhere. And we did some research and broke it down. About 35% of that money gets turned around in the sport horse industry, meaning dressage, jumping. You could maybe include polo on the periphery of that, but mostly dressage and jumping outside the racing industry and outside the horses for the pastime industry and the small breeds industry. So I got together with a jumper rider who I've known for years and done business with for years. And we would often sit around the dinner table late into the night discussing how we could put together an investment tool that looked a little bit like a mini stock market or a stock option. And what we came up with is sport horse investment portfolios. And we pulled in two guys from the business sector. So as co-founders, we have four people in Norcordia. We are a startup. We're in our going into our third year of operation now. And our first 2 years have been blockbuster, small, but blockbuster. So we're now stepping into the next phase where we will scale our business and offer it to more people. But you probably what you're interested in is really the structure of the sport horse portfolio and what that looks like. So throughout my career, I have managed risk within my own business, and sometimes successfully, sometimes not, but I've learned how to manage risk with horses. And I've always said to anyone who is interested in investing with me that numbers are important. If you're going to invest in horses, you can't invest in one, two, or three. You've got to invest in a group of horses, because if you have 10 horses, something's going to go wrong with one of them, maybe two of them. And you have to be able to profit from the other 8 in order to make a profit. Now, your average horse owner can't handle owning 10 horses, but they can own a piece of 10 horses. And that's what our sport horse portfolios offer. We've put together investment portfolios, horses that we curate, if you can stand the word, that's a little bit artsy for me, but we actually curate a collection of horses that we buy as Norcordia. And by the time we have purchased a horse, it has been through a thorough and rigorous vetting. It's passed the X-ray exam by 2 different veterinarians, one in Europe and one in the United States. It's passed a pre-purchase exam, and it's passed a riding test by one of our riders in various locations, and it's passed my eye. So I have approved the horse for final purchase. Once we've purchased those horses, they go to testing sites with some of the riders that work together with our company. They get tested for a month or 2, and then they get put into a portfolio. We have occasionally purchased a horse and put it immediately in a portfolio, but that's because we knew it was a known quantity. We'd either been watching it compete or we knew it very well for one reason or another. So in each sport horse portfolio, we place 8 to 10 horses when the portfolio is opened. And it depends on how much money we're seeding the actual portfolio with. Our first portfolio only had 5 horses. It was a 500,000 euro portfolio. And the second one was a €1 million portfolio. The third one is a 2.5 million euro portfolio. We're currently seeding that one. And depending on how much seed money we raise for each portfolio, that determines the number of horses we'll start the portfolio with. But we also have a mix of horses within the portfolio, 80% dressage, 20% jumping. And then we don't take all of the horses. And by the way, the portfolio runs over 3 years. It has a run of 3 years. So if we sell a horse quickly, because some of the horses we place in the portfolio are quick turnover horses, if we sell a horse quickly, it gets replaced quickly because we always have horses in our pipeline, and hopefully gets turned over again and again. So you could end up in a 3-year period selling anywhere from 18 to 30 horses in one portfolio. So if something goes wrong with one of them or 2 of them, or God forbid, 3 of them, those losses get covered by the profits on the other horses. And when we open the portfolios, we open them with a certain amount of investment seed capital, as I said, and only about 75% of that actually gets invested in horse flesh, because you need to keep some to the side to cover operating expenses. So the operating expenses are covered by our calculations for the first 6 to 8 months of the portfolio. We have to start selling within the first 6 to 8 months in order to keep the portfolio running. And we never take the contents of one portfolio and put it with one trainer. We place our portfolio horses with trainers. Well, I'm the only trainer in the United States right now, but we are expanding. And we have several locations in Europe where we place the horses. So I think I have created a tool where the risk is extraordinarily well managed. I mean, those of us who are experienced in the horse industry know that, sometimes a rider gets sponsored and the sponsor says, oh, I want you to ride these 6 or 8 horses and we're going to sell some and make money. And then, the sponsored rider flies a little too close to the sun and something goes wrong with them. They have mental issues or drug issues or whatever. And then the whole portfolio goes to crap. We don't want that to happen. We also want to make sure that if there's, God forbid, disease, sickness, barn fire, flood, tree falls on the stable, that not all of our assets are in one place. We also very quickly recognize that there are different markets for various horses. You can buy, for instance, a 10-year-old horse that in dressage that's doing Prix St. George in Europe. That's a relatively ordinary horse in Europe. You can purchase a horse at a really decent price. When you bring it to the United States, its value becomes much higher because we don't have a lot of those horses going around here. Whereas if you have an extraordinary 4 or 5-year-old, to keep that horse in the United States is maybe not the best market for that horse. It might be marketed better in Europe. So basically, I think we've created an investment tool that is really interesting for your average person to invest in. So when people come to buy horses from me, I say, hey, I'm happy you're getting this horse. I think it's the perfect match for you. Do you want to invest another 100,000 alongside this purchase? Because if you invest, you'll be getting some money back on your investment. It'll at least pay for a year or year and a half of your pastime on the profit. So people are really interested in the concept, and we've had really good participation so far. As I said, 2 portfolios are completely funded, and the third one is in process.
And what is the structure like? Is it an LLC? Is it like a private placement? What is the actual entity that is created that you own?
So our company is founded in Denmark. The mother company is founded in Denmark because my 3 co-founders are Danish. And what we've created then are individual companies within the Danish national system. They would be comparable to an LLC. And each portfolio is its own individual company. So when you invest in a portfolio, you actually buy a piece of the company. And then when the company is dissolved after 3 years, you get your capital back plus profit. It's a profit sharing model.
So the exit strategy is defined as like a defined point of 3 years?
Yes.
Now, what would happen if your expenses exceed what you predicted and the business isn't able to sell a horse and you need to board and shoe it? What happened in that situation?
Okay, so we have a couple scenarios, and we have gone over a lot of scenarios in planning this. And our first portfolio actually reaches fruition next year. So we're looking at how to close it out. We do have one horse that's a phenomenal horse that had some soundness issues. It's already been a very successful horse. It had some soundness issues, which are completely reparable. We can take care of it. It just needs a little bit of time. And we've already discussed this with the investors within the portfolio and have told them, when it gets to within a month of dissolution or sale of all of your shares, you're going to have to make a decision. Do you stay in for an extra 3 to 4 months so that we can do right by this horse and have it up and running and sold well? Or do you want to take the loss on that horse and therefore receive less profit? So I think what you should know going into this is that at the moment, the ROIs on investment, the returns on investment in the first 2 portfolios are anywhere between 18 and 25% in the first 2 years. So you have a lot of leeway to have one horse go bad on you, and you can still make a profit. So that's one option, is to extend the portfolio. The other thing that we can do is simply sell the horse for whatever we can get for it and close the portfolio with that one particular horse being a loss. And we can put that in front of our investors. We have the ability to say, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to stay in longer? We also have the ability to expand the portfolios into a longer term if we want. So there's that option as well.
Yeah.
All of that's done within Danish business law. So we have lawyers involved, accountants involved, and we have to make sure that we really stick to the financial rules of Denmark, which are actually quite strict and not at all cloaked. They are transparent. So our annual reports are online. Anybody can see them. We send out newsletters twice a year to each portfolio, each shareholder, letting them know how the portfolio is faring. Generally speaking, we contact them when we've made a really good sale, just to celebrate. The people who invest with us, some of them, it's about 50-50 actually. About 50% are horse people. And those horse people, they want to know when the horses are showing. And sometimes they'll show up and they love it because they can participate in the sport, and they're not like, going, oh shit, so-and-so just tripped at X. They can enjoy a multitude of horses in the sport. And then the other 50% of people who invest with us are only interested in returns. They don't know a lot about this. They don't really care. They just want to see a big return on their investment.
Yeah. On your US tax return, how does it show up on your tax return? Is it like do you guys like issue some sort of K1, or I guess that's for an LLC?
Yeah. So it's a Danish company, and what gets issued at the end of every year is an annual report. And since you are actually buying a share of the company, this is what I would say. Okay. But you absolutely must consult your own tax person.
Right.
But this is the advice I have been given, is that you let that investment run its course over 3 years. And when you sell your portion of the company, which is what happens when you dissolve the portfolio,
Yeah.
it's capital gain, just like any.
It's capital gain. Okay. So a long-term capital gain.
It's a long-term capital gain over 3 years.
Yeah. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then do you assume a little bit of risk, like if the horse were to kill somebody or something and they were to sue the company, I guess?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to throw out like all these apocalyptic things. I just always like
of course.
think about, and like, yeah.
Yeah, you're not asking questions that haven't already been asked.
I'm sure. Yeah, it sounds like you guys have thought this thing through.
The main company is Norcordia APS, which is a Danish company. We assume all liability for the horses. The horses are registered to show and insured in our name for liability.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no reach through of that corporate veil to the LLCs for liability.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it being in if you're a U.S. investor too, I wonder that there's maybe a layer of protection. It's pretty hard to, nothing's impossible, but it's a Danish company, so it's harder to go after the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably hard for them to even know who the investors are.
Exactly. We are a management company. We manage the portfolios, and we manage all of the trainers who train our horses. So our liability policy that we have for Norcordia, the main company, an umbrella policy that's very expensive, and it covers everybody who operates under our operations.
Yeah. I guess the other thing that I love, okay, so I'll tell you what I love about it, and then I'll keep telling you my questions, is I guess another question is where do you see some of the sweet spots? So I put together in 2000, I'm going to give you like ballpark numbers and dates. In 2010, I went to Germany with $200,000, and I bought 4 horses, and I found that buying approximately 20 to 30,000 euro horses and trying to sell them for approximately 80,000 US dollars was what I like, I don't even know how you look at a market and decide this, was sort of like the repeatable model. And that was like my diversification. And the entity did make money. It did work. I sold the horses. I ultimately decided that I didn't like that model, and I can get into why. I mean, it's similar to what you're saying. I think the underlying structure. I was interested when you said that you buy horses in the U.S. and sell them in Europe, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. So where do you see the sweet spot in the market? Like, I was buying 30,000 euro horses. It sounds like you guys are buying, well, maybe you're doing something similar, because you have to save so much money for operating expenses, but I'll let you answer.
Okay, so there are many markets. Okay. And I think for us, what's really important is that we provide horses to our network trainers that fits their niche market. So we would not sell the same horse in Denmark that we sell in Florida, depending on which market it's geared toward.
Yeah.
So for instance, if I'm a Norcordia trainer, even though I'm a co-founder. In my stable at the moment, we have 8 horses from Norcordia. One of the top horses that we've trained within the business, we left in Europe. It went to a European championship with us this summer, and we left it in Europe to be sold with one of the top riders in the world. So that's a horse that most amateurs wouldn't touch in this country. It's a horse for
Yeah.
either a top amateur who wants to do international sport, U25 or Grand Prix, or somebody who's really serious about the Olympics. And
Hmm.
that's why we left it in Europe, because that's where people unfortunately shop mostly for those horses in
Hmm.
dressage. Whereas, again, that 10-year-old Prix St. George horse that's not going to Grand Prix,
Hmm.
we're going to, you know, our buy-in prices are pretty reasonable, but where we add value is through our vetting process and the follow-up training.
Hmm.
And with most of our horses. So some of them that are already really well trained and they arrive in this country, we add value simply because they're here.
Hmm.
Shipping value and the vetting and the travel value is added to them. But
Yeah.
I would say the sweet spot in our business in general lies with good training. So if you put those horses with a trainer that can increase the value, if you see a horse that you're going to buy and you know
Hmm.
that training will increase its value, and you don't let your ego get involved, so you put the horse with the trainer that will best increase the horse's value, then you have a business.
Hmm.
And that's
So
what we do.
would a typical transaction for you guys be that you try to buy something for 50,000 euros and sell it within 3 months for 100 or something? Because obviously, like the quicker you can sell it for, right? There's like some sort of calculus of like, do we wait a year to get an extra 10? But what is like an average carrying cost for these horses to kind
It's
of throw in?
extraordinarily expensive, especially in the United States. You know this. Our base is in Florida in the winter and California, New Jersey in the summer. It's two of the most expensive, horse keeping areas in the world. So obviously quick turnover in some cases is phenomenal, but we buy horses basically in three tiers. We buy young horses that we think have the potential to turn over as a young horse and make money, or a horse that can go on to a championship and become what we call a developing horse.
Yeah.
And a developing horse, we're willing to keep anywhere from 2 to 3 years, sometimes even 4, if we're sure that horse is really increasing in value. So we have young horses, we have developing horses, and then we have horses that we would turn over quickly that are already trained to a level that they're not going to go beyond. And those are horses that we then have to bring into a market where we know those kinds of horses don't exist. And we really polish them up. Actually, we do more than that. We ride them extraordinarily well. They come off the truck from the airport. Many of them are a little bit scared from the trip. We treat them well. We give them the best possible feed, the best possible shoeing, a lot of elbow grease with grooming. And we spend a few months on them just to make sure that we know that product inside and out, because the horses we're putting on the market, we are true horsemen and true believers and very passionate about, we should know our product before we sell it. We should know what's going to be the best match for the horse. And then we don't really go out to sell the horse. What we do is go out to find the right rider that makes the perfect match. And we only let riders try our horses that we think are suited to the horses. And if we think they're suited, we'll let them try them. And what we find is if we know the horse well, the horses will, generally speaking, choose who they want to go with. They're going to go the best for the rider that they match the best. So that's another part of our business. We're really, really concerned about horse welfare, which also adds value to the horses, because we're not
Yeah.
just kicking them into a new program and saying, hey, quick, take this one. We're getting
Yeah.
to them and we're adding value to them before they're sold.
What does your marketing look like, and who's in charge of the sale, right?
We put
Like,
our trainers in charge of the sales. So we can't here's the thing. We don't want to invest in infrastructure. We are not going to put our money in Norcordia into infrastructure. We're not going to own stables. So what we do is we place horses with network trainers where they follow our rules on horse management and welfare. And we have already approved their training and showing methods. So if we've done those two things, we then have a couple meetings with the person we're going to send a horse to or horses to. And we talk about their program and how we expect the horse to go forward. As far as marketing goes, we like our riders to go out and show. We support that they do that. We pay for that because we're selling top competitive horses.
right.
We're not
Right.
backyard horses or horses that
Yeah.
don't So we want them to continue to compete and we expect them to go up the levels.
Yeah.
So we pay for that. And obviously, as a horse progresses up the levels, he also becomes worth more money, he or she.
Okay.
We have
So
a
it's
lot of,
up to the partner trainer to really market and sell the horse. You're
yes.
not
So
necessarily, you don't necessarily have like Norcordia marketing that brings buyers and sends them there. The individual network trainers need to find their own buyers.
50-50. So we
Okay.
expect them to find their own buyers, and we usually put horses with trainers who can do that. With
But
the
people
other,
are reaching out to you and you're like, oh yeah, like I know the
yes,
horse, like I know the Norcordia horse over here. And like, so you
exactly.
might push them because I was thinking, what's my motivation as a network trainer? Let's say I'm picking up, I have this awesome horse. And like, this is part of the reason why I ultimately didn't like the model for me personally
Mhm.
was what's my motivation if I'm a network trainer? I'm in love with this horse. I get paid to train and show it
Mhm.
every month. What's my motivation to sell it? Like to you know what I mean? Because sometimes you look at the commission they make and the training they make, and you know, trainers aren't that motivated in these situations financially to sell it, right? Because it's kind of nice just to get paid every month, right? So what's
Of
the,
course.
yeah,
Which is why a lot of our network trainers are in Europe, because the reverse is true in Europe, where training fees are paltry compared to what we pay people
right,
here. And at the same time, if they want to keep working for Norcordia and getting top horses from us, they have to
right,
meet turnover requirements.
right.
And we're horse people, so we're understanding if it takes an extra month or two. But generally, we have a plan for each horse when it's assigned to a trainer,
Mm-hmm.
and we expect them to meet that plan unless they can prove to us, meaning me,
Right.
that there is a reason to keep that horse longer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
plus, we do our own marketing. We are
Yeah.
actually, that's our big goal for 2024 is to up our marketing plan.
Right.
So once we put a horse actively and openly on the market, the trainer cannot stop the sale.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's different, right? Like if you have an owner who's kind of a one-off person, like I've seen situations where the owner is in full training and wants to sell their horse and they don't plan on buying another one, right? The trainer, like financially, like, look, everybody's going to try to do right by the client, but it is kind of important because you're kind of like, well, financially, the trainer's not working that hard to sell that horse because they're not replacing it and the commission's not going to be that good. But it's different if you're working for sport horse portfolios. Look, look, there and the training fee isn't that good. The commissions on these horses sounds like it's significant. So I want to get as many, and you're going to replace the horse. Like if I
That's right.
you know, if I sell this horse for you and if I train this horse really well, market it really well, sell it at a good price for you, you're going to give me another one and we're
I'm
going to
gonna
have
give
a long-term future. So yeah, but
Brian,
yeah,
I'm gonna give you a better one.
yeah, exactly. And like,
You have to start a
I'm
little
not gonna,
totem
no,
pole, but I'm gonna
yeah.
give you a better one
And
every
nobody's going
time.
to play games with you either. Like sometimes there's like dumb money behind these things that doesn't really understand horses and what's actually going on, but you have been there, done that. And so it's less likely that people are going to be able to play games with with you guys, as opposed to sometimes the money behind it and the people running it aren't necessarily horse people, right? And so
Right.
then that's where, so it's less likely. My gut is people are not going to fool you guys. And so, you know, there's always risk involved, but it sounds like there's a lot of risk management pieces in here.
Well, the network trainers that we hire are people
Yeah.
that we have also rigorously vetted,
Right.
and they know what our purpose is. We're also, we are, I mean, ask my husband because he keeps, he'll be like, honey, can I have a cup of coffee? And I'm like, don't bug me. I'm building an empire. We are expanding and
Yeah.
we're scaling the business within the next year or so. And
Mhm.
with the next 5 years in particular, we have a plan. And we're really interested in becoming the leading supplier of top horses to top sport in the
Mhm.
world.
Yeah.
So if there are people out there who are really skilled at what they're doing and they come on board with us, they may have one or two, normal average horses to sell, but we're going to put a developing horse with them. We're going to put a
Mhm.
top competition horse with them because we want them to work for us.
Mhm.
So, and a lot of these riders have sponsors of their own already, but they don't always have time or the access to the kind of horses they want to try and
Yeah.
bring into their stable. So from us, they can get 3 or 4 sales horses, and they might say, "Hey, sponsor, I want to buy this one from Norcordia," which is
Mhm.
fine. And then they can sell the other ones, and then we'll replace all 4, and
Mhm.
maybe they do it again.
Mhm.
So we have lots of ideas for scaling up and expanding the organization, but
Yeah.
you're going to be hearing a lot more about Norcordia in the near future.
There's so many cool things about this. Now, I guess I forgot my question because I was gonna comment like, yeah, what a cool opportunity. I mean, obviously, if you are a trainer, it it would be awesome if you're friends with Catherine and she likes you because and what you do and you're good at what you do because it's a great client, right? To have 4 horses. I guess two of my questions are, right, like I like what you're doing for the industry is what I'm saying. Because like theoretically, let's say in one parallel universe without you, I'm your typical struggling rider. Now, with somebody like you in my corner, all of a sudden I have 4 horses that are just ridiculously nice, and I don't respond to your typical like emotional basket case Karen owner. I'm dealing with an actual business and talking to an actual horse person, and the commissions are there, and there's a repeatable process behind it all. So that you guys are scouring the world for these horses. So that I like that aspect of it, that it's a win-win, right? Like that's what I'm saying in the beginning, that I like people, that I think it's good for horses that people are finding economic relationships with them. It's good for horses,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
It's good for the horses. And people always come at me, they're like, they're not for making money. You should just do it because you love it. And I say I agree, like, but the reality is that if there's not that economic relationship, the horses are going to suffer, you know?
Absolutely.
So what, so 2 questions. What's the minimum buy-in for the portfolio? And question number 2, who should think to, if you're shopping for horses, what is that client avatar? It's not the backyard person, right? It's the person that wants to go to the Olympics, or it's the person that wants to get a nice amateur horse. Who's the target shopper that should contact you? And what's the minimum buy-in as an investor?
Okay, so the minimum buy-in on portfolio 3, which is now open for investment, is 250,000 euro, because we always make it 10% of the grand goose egg, and it's a 2.5 million euro portfolio. We have made a couple exceptions for our previous investors. They wanted to come in at 100,000, which was the minimum investment in the other 2 portfolios, and we allowed them to. So
Mhm.
you're anywhere between 100 and 250,000, depending on how much I like you. You can come in to the first. That's a joke. It's a bad joke. I like all investors. But between 100 and 250,000, and 250,000 euro will buy 10% of this one company we are seeding right now, and it will be seeded before the end of the year. So as soon as
Yeah.
our full investment in, it's closed, and
Hmm.
we start placing horses in it.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, the minimum, if you wanted to come in at 100,000, say you, Brian, if you wanted to do that, we would make an exception and allow you to do it. And basically, like I said, our ROIs at the moment in portfolio 1, they're at 18% per year.
Hmm.
And portfolio 2 is about 25%. And that's in its
Hmm.
first year run. So
Hmm.
we're getting better at what we do. And it doesn't, every year it can shift. It could shift down to 14%. It could go up to 30%. It depends on which horses get sold and which year.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
developed horses, to be honest, sometimes bring a much higher return than the quick turnover horses.
Hmm.
That's why we keep them. I think our strength as a company is knowing when to sell a horse. When is that
Right.
horse really going to peak in profitability?
Yeah.
And we put a lot of factors into determining that. The soundness and longevity of the horse,
Hmm.
how well it's being trained, how well it's doing in competition.
Yeah.
If if we see any warning factors, we might go, oh, that horse is
Right.
top out at this level, so let's sell it this year. And
Yeah.
sometimes, you'll you may have done this in training too. You walk by a horse and you see it jump, or you see a step of piaffe and you go, holy crap, that horse has Olympic potential in him, or at least international potential in him.
Yeah.
And then you sit back and you reevaluate, do we really put it on the market right now, or do we sit back on this one?
Yeah.
So there was a second part to that question. Something
Who's
about
the target market? Are
who's
you
the
looking
target
for
market?
Olympic hopefuls, or is it the amateur? You know, what's
Both.
the, yeah.
Both. I would say both. And we don't sell any sort of backyard horses.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe them.
What are they typically priced at? Like, what's the range that, like, if I'm going to come look at your horses, like, what's your cheapest horse? What's your most expensive horse in your portfolio? Like the retail purchase price?
Well, I would say the cheapest is 100,000 euro, and that horse is probably located in Europe. By the time it gets to the United States, you're looking at 180. And I'm not saying it's the same horse. I'm just saying that the horses we would bring to the States, the cheapest horse we would offer here is around 180,000, and they go up beyond $1 million. So we have horses that are, oh yeah, we have horses that are.
So give me some historical sales, like $1 million is what it costs to get like an Olympic hopeful kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a horse right now that it's the one we took to Ermelo last summer. And it came in top 10 in the 7-year-olds. This is an American bred horse with a rider that I trained, and I trained the horse in my stable, and we brought it to the Young Horse Championships. It's the first time that a US bred horse has scored that well and come that high in international competition for the young horses. And that is a horse we left in Europe with Catherine Dufour, who is one of the #1 riders in the world. I think she's rated #3 right now, but she's one of the best riders in the world in dressage. And she is marketing that horse at a very good value. And that horse will return quite a bit to the people who are invested in it.
Right. Right. Okay. So the cheapest is like 180, and it can go above $1 million for the right horse. That's kind of the market you guys are playing in, and the clients you guys deal with, and the caliber you guys are at. It's yeah.
I mean, we have sold horses to Olympic hopefuls and to Olympic riders. We've sold horses with potential to those very people.
Yeah.
Not going to quote singular prices, but we also have an agency service. So my jumping partner in Europe will also look for specific horses. If we don't have the horse in our Norcordia network and someone's looking for a specific horse, he will go look for the specific horse, and we will do that on a commission basis.
Yeah. And you guys are 80% dressage, 20% jumping.
Yes.
How did you come up with that allocation?
It's a lot easier to turn over. Well, let me put it like this.
It's because you're dressage, right?
Because I'm dressage.
It's what you know.
Yes, but also it is, if you know the right trainers, it's easy to create value in dressage horses. So in dressage horses, the movement is like #1, but then you have to also determine the temperament and the right training program for the temperament, and how the horse will progress and who it will be, appropriate for. And if you know that process well, it's really easy to create value in it. Whereas a jumping horse, a jumping horse not only has to have ability to jump and be well trained, but it has to be like extraordinarily good at his job, and everybody can see when he isn't. I think easier to fail with a jumping horse than it is a dressage horse.
Well, I've got a hard stop here. Are you the point of contact? How do people get in touch with you if they want to buy a horse or invest?
They can contact me. That's no problem. I am the point of contact amongst many other things. But yes, I will direct them in the right direction if they need to speak to someone else.
And best way to reach out to you? What, email?
Instagram, email. Email is chs@norcordia.com. Investment inquiries can also come to me, or you can go to our website, norcordia.com, and you can talk to our investment experts there. We're on LinkedIn. We have an Instagram account, so you can reach us in a lot of ways. Awesome. Well, thank you, Catherine. I'm glad I had you on. That's a really interesting conversation, and I wish you all the best with this. And I really hope it continues to scale. Good luck with your empire. Thank you for coming on. Thank you. Bye, Brian. All right. Bye-bye. All right.